Anybody, any of you guys into soap operas? Any of you dare watch soap operas?
My wife's in one.
Is
oh,
she?
she left one actually. She was burned to death last year.
Was she? Who is that?
She played Viv in Emmerdale.
Really?
Yeah, she's
I wish I'd have known this. Oh, brilliant.
Get it back.
Brilliant.
Get it back.
You what? But wait till I tell my wife tonight. Guess I've been on the course today. Viv's husband. Genuinely, she'll be delighted. She'll be delighted at that. Brilliant, brilliant. Way back, I mean, the reason, I mean, this is the most tenuous link of all time ever. You recall on EastEnders when Martin Fowler was in it? I mean, the Fowler dynasty seemed to have died off from Albert Square, but there used to be Martin Fowler. Martin Fowler used to have a best friend, an Asian guy called Asif. Asif, boy, Asif, boy. And which brings me nicely on to talking about the as-if type of process. This is my tenuous, really hugely tenuous link. Yeah. There's a lot of pain in the room at that point. Okay, yes, I know, groan. Okay, so we're going to utilise the as-if process. As-if marries itself very well to revivification. It tends to work a lot better if someone has been hypnotised a couple of times beforehand. And so, you know, it's a nice time to start doing it a couple of sessions in, especially for those of you that teach your clients self-hypnosis and the client's very good at going into hypnosis and has developed that skill set further on into the sessions. So as if, you know, if you take it from a real cognitive behavioural process, then really you're just asking someone essentially to behave as if they are in hypnosis, to act as if they are in hypnosis, to think as if they are in hypnosis. Now, if someone is acting and behaving and thinking as if they are in hypnosis, what's the difference between that and actually being in hypnosis, do you think? No, I mean, really, not a huge amount. Not a huge amount. You know, when you pretend so well, I mean, you'll know, you know, method actors, some of the real old school method acting, there are accounts of them, you know, taking on facets of the characters that they were acting as if they were. Okay. So I'm just going to demonstrate that, then we're going to demonstrate something else at the same time, or rather afterwards. So we're going to kind of do two at a time now. And we're going to combine this idea of revivification. And revivification is to, you know, this idea to revive, to bring something to life. So if someone has a marked experience that is tangible as far as hypnosis is concerned, that's the kind of thing we want to revivify. So the kind of experience is an occasion where you've been utterly absorbed in something, or where you were highly focused, or perhaps deeply relaxed. Okay, there's the two of you now I've explained this to, and I'll just explain it to the room. And you all know this, I'm sure, so excuse me again teaching it a psychic, but that is, it does not need to be relaxation in order to be hypnosis, okay? Ernest Hilgard, Theodore Barber, some of the big researchers from the 50s and 60s all showed that, you know, there doesn't have to be a correlation between the two, and that is, you know, they would have people do rigorous exercise immediately before being hypnotized, and then would pass all kinds of tests as for Stanford scale and those kinds of suggestibility tests and susceptibility tests. So even though it's nice if people are relaxed at certain times, and it's good to have that, they don't have to be the case, okay? So I know that it's a bit noisy and constricted within the room, but that doesn't, you know, that doesn't have to mean that people cannot be responsive, and we don't necessarily live in a silent world. Okay then, Steve, if you could just have your feet flat on the floor and just adopt some symmetry. You know, I don't have OCD. And then, you know, I'm not insisting that people have symmetry because of my own foibles or idiosyncrasies, okay? It's because I think it's good to have some balance. I think it's good to have some balance. Also, I think, you know, you don't have to insist upon people being sat still. mean, I'm not going to insist that you sit still, Steve. Okay, I'm not going to insist that Steve sits still. I'm just going to, I'm just going to suggest that it's beneficial often when people are still for a prolonged period of time. They tend to lose their sense of spatial awareness, and when you lessen your spatial awareness, it can be a kind of deeper quality to what it is that you are doing. Likewise, if someone is sat there scratching, shuffling, it's like a reminder. Oh yeah, my hand is here. Oh yes, my chest is there, and they're really reminding themselves of exactly where they are. And it's nice to sometimes lose a little bit of that and lose some contact with the reality of things, with your hypnosis. So I think it's nice to suggest that your client experiment with stillness as much as possible. And you know what it's like. As soon as, everybody sat perfectly still throughout the training, and then you say, okay, we're going to do some hypnosis now. All right. And suddenly they have fleas, and they start scratching and shovering all over the place and all kinds of things. Okay, let's, but that's mainly because now the awareness, someone's awareness is now focused inwards, and they're very aware of their own physiology. And that's going to be very pertinent and very relevant to us when we do the somatic induction, somatic deepening processes. Okay then, Steve, are you ready for us to go into hypnosis?
Mm-hmm.
Great. I know you're seeing what I'm doing there, yeah? And the fact that it's so utterly obvious, I think serves a real tongue-in-cheek way of illustrating hypnosis. Okay. How do you know when you are utterly absorbed in something?
So I lose awareness of everything else.
You lose awareness of everything else. Okay. Is that it? Is that the one redeeming quality as far as being absorbed in something is concerned?
Well, I think it's the main one for me. Yeah, I'm so focused on that one thing that is all I'm aware of.
Okay. Take a slightly deeper breath as you exhale. Just allow your eyes to be comfortably closed, and you can communicate and respond and react to me. But all the time, each word, each thought process that you have serves to take you deeper inside of your mind. Just before we get right into this idea of revivifying and bringing to life a particular type of experience, inside of your mind, just start to act as if you were in hypnosis. So you've experienced hypnosis a couple of times already this morning. Start to act as if you are hypnotized. Start to behave as if you were hypnotized. By that, what kind of thoughts happen inside of your body? How do you hold your body? What's your physiology like? What kind of sensations do you have? Where do you have them? How do you know? So act as if, behave as if, think as if you are in hypnosis now. That's it, good. And we talk about being in hypnosis and not being under. Under's pejorative. So we're going to talk about being in hypnosis. So act as if you are in hypnosis. Behave as if you are in hypnosis. And then, just tell me, how do you know when you're absolutely absorbed in something?
Lose awareness of anything else.
So you are losing awareness of anything else. Let that happen. Start to lose awareness of anything else, as if it were happening. Perhaps you can recall an occasion in your life, an experience whereby you were utterly absorbed to the exclusion of everything else, where you lose awareness of everything else. It's like, where did everything else go? You lost it, comfortably, easily, naturally. And just go deeper inside of your mind. Act as if that is happening now. Now we're just going to do something whereby I'm just going to bring you up and out, and then I want to talk to you about something different. So coming up now in 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Eyes open, now just concentrating. Okay, just take a nice deep breath. As you exhale, just allow your eyes to be comfortably closed. So we're going to do something different, and I want to point something out to you. Okay, Steve, really engage your imagination now. Focus on the sound of my voice. Okay, so in the back of your mind, of course, you're going to be aware of all kinds of other things happening in the room. But all the time, focus in, zone in on the sound of my voice. And just imagine it's just you and I. I want you to get a sense of how I feel, that you are the most important person to me in this moment. I want you to feel that intention for a moment. Get a sense of it. Now just imagine, sat here in this chair, is the perfect hypnotist for you. Notice what they're wearing, how they're holding their body, and start to notice the language they're using and the things that they are saying to you. Notice the tonality. It seems to be the kind of tonality that pulls strings in your mind. The kind of tonality that you resonate with, that responds beautifully to you. Now, if hypnosis were a colour, what colour would that be? If hypnosis were a sound, how do you hear that sound? What is it? If hypnosis were a feeling, how does that feel for you now? Now spread that colour through your body, spread that sound, hear that sound, let it resonate, reverberate throughout. Comfortably, naturally, easily. The perfect hypnotist. Each word I speak becomes the words of this perfect hypnotist that you resonate, you respond to, and so it takes you deeper. Now sat opposite you, positioned opposite you, Steve, I'd like you to imagine now there is a mirror, a full-length mirror that dominates your vision. So all you can see is you. And notice in the mirror, as you look at yourself, notice what it is that tells you that you are in a deep hypnosis. Notice what it is that tells you that. What qualities, what you can see in the mirror that tells you that you are in deep hypnosis. And as you continue to look at that and become focused and absorbed utterly within that image, now start to notice what it is that you can notice, that you see in the mirror reflection that tells you that you are going deeper. Look at it. Notice in the mirror reflection that you are going deeper, and notice how you can tell that that's happening. That's it. Good. Good. Great. Continue to go deeper. Well, I just explain a couple of things. I'll be talking to the group. Each word that I speak, it's as if the perfect hypnotist for you is continuing to speak to you, taking you deeper and way down. Okay, so I'm a couple of really simple but highly effective processes in place here. And that is that it's almost like a lazy man's guide now, and that is that you say to them that imagine the perfect hypnotist is doing everything they need to do in order for them to have the perfect response. Okay, and you can talk about the characteristics, the qualities, and so on. Second of all, then I've positioned a mirror there in front of them, and each of them you can use as standalone. The beauty about a mirror is they see something credible, and of course, without you needing to explain it, without you needing to highlight it necessarily, the fact that something's happening in the mirror means what? That it must be happening to them because it's a mirror reflection. Okay, it's inherent. It's unsaid. You don't have to spell it out. You don't have to be so obvious. You can let them work it out for themselves. So what is it that tells you that you are in hypnosis? Now what is it? How can you tell from what's happening in the mirror reflection? How can you tell that you're going deeper? And as he was looking at it, all the changes, the physiological changes started to happen. Pallor of his skin changing, eyelids fluttering, his head started to flop. So you're letting them do those kind of processes from there. Okay, Steve, I'm just talking to you again once again now. I'm just going to come up and out. And the effect of this session, this brief hypnotic session, it's like your mind feels as if you've had a 4-hour nap, It's like your entire body begins to respond and react as if you'd had a 1 hour back rub, and you feel rejuvenated, enhanced, and it feels wonderful to have experienced this, and I'd like to thank you. Really notice the difference coming up and out in 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Eyes open, thank you very much. So, we've got a number of things that we're working on here, a wide number of different mechanisms that have been threaded in, and I'll just talk about each component one at a time. Shadow keeps hanging out. Scruff. Did you just agree? Is that a of yes?
No,
Yes, you are actually. I'm quite scruffy. I'm a little bit disappointed.
No, it's chuckle.
I've heard you were a lot smarter than that. Okay. So, as if, I put C and B because I'm talking about cognitively and behaviourally. Make a fine distinction between the two. So have people think as if they are in hypnosis. Behave as if. Okay? Obviously, it will be better if they've had some kind of reasonable hypnotic experience, ideally a structured one, with you already. If they haven't, you can start to utilise revivification, whereby, how do you know when you've been totally absorbed in something? Or how do you know that you've been utterly focused on something? Or how do you know, etc., etc., some kind of, how do you know when you've been deeply relaxed? And then what you do is, as they explain it to you, move it from that tense, however they describe it, into the now. Okay, so shift the tense. You could spend a bit more time on this and use revivification in a way. So how do you know you're totally absorbed in something? Well, when there's nothing else going on. When is an occasion? When I'm watching my favourite television programme, Coronation Street, for example, or Emmerdale, or something along those lines, whatever it is, if you're into that. Okay, so when you're sat down and you're watching the television, what happens next? And ask them to describe it to you. And then, as they describe it in that tense, you shift it linguistically to now. Okay, so they say, well, I would be sat down on the chair in front of the television. Okay, so you are sat down on the chair in front of the television, and I would be absorbed, and you are absolutely absorbed. So you lose awareness of everything else. Okay, so you bring it into the present tense. So revivification, you ask them to revivify the experience, then you bring it into the now. And revivification and the as-if type of patterns marry up beautifully. Okay, they are brother and sister. Although the fact that I've just said that they're married, yeah, that could sound a bit incestual. So yeah, one or the other.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
When you're talking, because otherwise I'll forget. When you're talking about relaxing as if,
Yeah.
it's such a. Now there are different places where you may go into this as if, the feeling of feeling absorbed, and some might not be as enjoyable as others. So can you include
Yep.
the enjoyable place that you like to feel relaxed?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. If you think it's pertinent to qualify it, then absolutely. So a time when you've been enjoyably absorbed in something, yeah.
Because you might not be, as say, if you're sitting on a train looking out the window, but the trees going past,
That
might
could be
not
dull.
be as
Yeah.
enjoyable as
Yeah,
somewhere
absolutely. I think that's a very good point, very valid point, and good job you're here today to keep me on track. You're quite right. And what I would suggest is that anybody that feels that they want to qualify those experiences to make them as rich and as enjoyable as they possibly can. Yes. So revivification, recall a time when you're in deep hypnosis if they have been in there before, and begin to revivify. So that's, you can marry up as if, you can marry up that with revivification. Okay? Everybody understand those two concepts, the as if process and revivification. Anybody not understand that? Okay. Emails on Monday will get tutted at. And then the perfect hypnotist and the mirror. These tend to go quite nicely, but again can be standalone or can be utilised at any other time should you choose. Steve didn't give me a huge amount of information to work on, to work with, so I started using this idea of, if hypnosis were a sound, what sound would it be? If hypnosis were a colour, what would it be? And just to begin to generate some of that qualities of what hypnosis actually is before I then started going deeper into that process. So we set up the perfect hypnotist, induces hypnosis in you, deepens, has the qualities that are just right for you, those kinds of things. I mean, Steve, you were probably just imagining it was me, weren't you? Yeah. So, whatever is right for you, okay? So, but whatever is right for that person, let them have some responsibility as far as it's concerned. Let them adopt the qualities, the processes, the words that are being said, all the things that resonate with them the most. And then the idea of putting a mirror up there in front of them, a very rapid way. Notice what it is, see yourself there. Notice what it is that tells you you are in hypnosis. Notice what it is that tells you. And then, now notice what it is that's telling you that you are going deeper. You don't have to say, and let that happen. Because it must be happening to them in order for them to see that. Okay, so grant them enough intelligence to know that you don't necessarily have to spell that out. Unless you think they do. In which case, say to them, and you can start to do that now. Okay? Any questions, any queries?